Tonight's work involves review of some things that we've already looked at and just an extension of what we've seen already with equations. I don't think it made it to the last video, so I do want to talk about two-step equations in the form of 5n. I'm using a different stylus and it's not working so well for me. 5n minus 9 equals 71. As we did review in class already, the thing that's different about this than one-step problems is that it has two things with the variable. If we want to isolate the variable, we need to get rid of the minus 9 and the times 5. Often kids say, oh, Gremdas, we should follow Gremdas. But remember, when we're solving equations, we are essentially working backwards. So we're actually kind of going in the reverse of that when it comes right down to this step. So to keep in mind, the first step you do are the additions and subtractions, or subtractions. And then in the second step, so in this case, we're going to add 9. And that gives us 5n is equal to 80. And from there, we will do the multiplication or division. And here, to get the variable alone, to isolate it, it's multiplied by 5. So to undo that, I will divide by 5. And I bring it all down, and I have n is equal to 16. So, again, we had in class we talked about our choices with fractions when they're in two steps. For example, in a type of equation that's 1/2 x plus 3 equals 9. Well, following our additions and subtractions first, we can subtract 3 from both sides. Always bring our equal sign straight down. That gives me 1/2 x is equal to 6. Fraction destroyer! I do this, and it, of course, destroys the fraction. But I'm going to undo that. We also need this to, oh dear, what happened? Okay. 2. I'm going to put that back. It does destroy the fraction, but I also have to multiply by the other side, so that makes it x is equal to 12. The other choice for doing that, is to, okay, I'm going to change the page. There's another way. Some kids prefer to just say, okay, I am going to get rid of this fraction because I simply cannot stand fractions. 1/2 x plus 3 equals 9. And so they say, I see 2, I'm going to multiply this whole equation by 2. Well, the only thing is, you do have to remember, when I multiply it here, that destroys the fraction. That gives me x. But I'm multiplying the whole equation, both sides of the equation, which means I have to multiply the 3 by 2 as well. And also the 9 by 2. That leaves me with x plus 6 is equal to 18 minus 6 minus 6. X equals 12. Notice, we get the same answer either way. You get to choose which way makes the most sense. Another form of a two-step equation that you really haven't seen much of in the past, if at all, is when it starts out looking like this. The expression w minus 5 divided by 9 equals 2. In this situation, since the fraction bar really is a grouping symbol, we need to make sure that we get rid of this 9 first. So fraction destroyer, and remember, what's getting destroyed? Just the 9 on this side of the equation, leaving us with w minus 5. But I also have to multiply the 9 by 2, so that equals 18. Getting further, moving on further to get w alone, we add 5 to both sides, and we end up with w is equal to 23. So this is kind of new. If you see an equation that has a denominator like this, think fraction destroyer. we will be doing all kinds of equations where you will benefit if you understand the mechanics of the fraction destroyer. Okay, the next one up, and say, okay, what's different about this? 32. By the way, these are the examples in your book, so you can also look at what they did. 7a, it's on page 108, 7a plus 9a. Okay. I wish we were in class together so I could say, what's different about this one? And I'm sure some of you would notice that I've got a variable in two different terms. So I hope you remember what you do when you see these. They are called like terms, and you're going to combine like terms. We haven't reviewed so much about simplifying algebraic expressions, but I think you can remember that if you have 7 a's plus 9 more a's, you've got 16 a's. Combine like terms means adding the coefficients, and the variables and exponents stay the same. Now, clearly I haven't isolated the variable yet. To do that, since 16 is multiplied with the variable, I'm going to divide by the variable. And always bringing my equal sign straight down, I have a is equal to 2. The next equation has even more of the things that you studied last year. It's got pretty much the whole shebang. We've got 4 times the quantity. That means it's in parentheses because this y plus 8 is its own quantity. Minus 7 is equal to 15. Notice for the first time we have parentheses. When I see parentheses in an algebraic expression, I must automatically remember to distribute this 4 that's multiplying the whole quantity over each of the terms. In other words, 4 times y is 4y. 4 times 8 is 32. And then minus 7 is 15. From there, you might see that you have some like terms. Constants are like terms. Positive 32 minus 7, or positive 32 plus negative 37, either way you think about it, is, 32 minus 7 is 25, and that equals 15. Now, I've got my regular two-step equation. I'm going to do additions or subtractions first. To get rid of positive 25, I subtract 25. I draw my line. I can see here that I have unlike signs because this is a positive 15, this is a negative 25, so I will subtract. I'm always going to take the bigger absolute value, 25 minus 15, because subtraction doesn't really make sense besides that, if I don't do that. So 25 minus 15 is 10, and I use the sign of the greater absolute value, which is negative 10. And now I have 4y equals negative 10. I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and when I get to this step, there are some times when 7th graders say, wait, it's not coming out to be a whole number, and they think that it doesn't really, that it can't work. But now that we're in 8th grade, we're going to work harder to simplify our answers and understand that negative 10 divided by 4 is a number. I can think of it as either negative 5 over 4, negative 5 over 2, because I've reduced the top and the bottom by a factor of 2, which is also negative 2.5, which is also, if you do it in your calculator, which I suspect some of you may be doing, you will get negative 2.5. You should understand this relationship among these three things, though, without using a calculator. And I think that that is all that you need to know for tonight in terms of your review. So good luck, watch your signs, and do every step. I changed my mind. I just condensed these into steps. So the first thing that we want to do is if there are parentheses, get rid of parentheses. That's using the distributive property. The second step is after that step, if you have like terms, you want to combine your like terms. And finally, do the final steps of solve. Okay, there is an L in there. That means you want to do the addition and subtraction first. And after that, the multiplication and divide. Okay, now I think we're done.